brand new show, and if I'm going to start a new show about literally called This Crap Was on National Television, I need a filmmaker. I need someone who can bring a different point of view, and I've got Chris Bournea from Columbus, Ohio. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on, Kirk.
Are you sure, though, that it's a thanks? Because I sent you something horrible to watch.
Well, it's like one of those, like, for years it was like FOMO, what am I missing out on? I'd always heard about this, but it's now I can say I'm among the initiated. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I can at least say I'm part of the group now who's seen this.
So if you don't mind me asking, I have a feeling I might be a little older than you. So like I was 6 when, no, I would have been 5 when Star Wars originally came out.
We're exactly the same age.
Okay. All right. So like as a little kid, so this would have came out, and if people haven't figured out by the title, we're talking about the Star Wars Holiday Special, which was released November 17th, 1978. So I would have been 6. I don't remember this being on at all, but I was 6.
I don't either. Yeah.
So I don't think I was even aware of it until well after Return of the Jedi. And actually, I don't think until the internet where some people were talking about it, because this became almost like Indiana Jones and the Holy Grail of all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you didn't record it, and it was 78, not a lot of people had a Betamax back then.
Exactly.
It wasn't there. And then I would find little clips here and there. And I think, so I've seen a bit of that, but until I suggested this, I had never seen the full thing. This is the worst piece of television I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Since we're both products of the 70s, like this special, I actually think you kind of have to look at it through the lens of the 70s. So this might be an unpopular opinion. I don't think it's the worst piece of art, if you can call it that, in the Star Wars canon. I think the prequels are far worse. But but how I would describe the Star Wars Holiday Special is that it doesn't work. It's too disjointed. They didn't know whether they wanted to do a 70s style variety show with having comedy skits and musical numbers. They didn't know whether they wanted to do an animated special that would appeal towards kids and preteen fanboys. They didn't know if they wanted to do like a coming attraction to the next installment of the Star Wars series. So I think it just doesn't work. And if you look at the 70s, it was an era when the lines between kids television and adult television was starting to be blurred. Like you look at the Muppet Show, they would have guests on the Muppet Show who weren't children's entertainers, or they weren't known for doing child-oriented, play books, movies, whatever, music, whatever. So it was sort of in that era. Then you had like sort of that era of the cavalcade. I call it the cavalcade of stars, where like, I don't know if you ever remember, they used to have those Battle of the Network Stars, where they would have stars from the different TV shows, like doing tug of war. And I'm like, even as a kid, I was like, why are these famous people degrading themselves by doing this? So it was that era when stars would do stuff and you'd be scratching your head, like, why are they doing this? And then also, I think they wanted to shoehorn in like some people who'd been on since this was on CBS, they wanted to shoehorn in B. Arthur and Harvey Korman from the Carol Burnett Show. I'm not sure why Art Carney was there. I guess the Honeymooners, but that was decades before this.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just a weird product of the 70s.
It's funny you mentioned Battle of the Network Stars. I actually just reviewed an episode of that for my classic sports review, where I had I had a former Olympian actually on that as we were watching that one. And yeah, Debbie Allen was very enamored with a lot of the people that she was talking with on that episode. It was, and they were all enamored back. I guarantee after the filming of that, there was a lot of sex between the stars. Had to be. We might have gotten into a bit of strange Wookiee stuff as we're sort of looking at what turned up here. But the origin came from, the way I understood it and all the research that I did. George Lucas gets pitched the idea of this show, and a lot of it came apparently from, and you mentioned, you talk about cavalcade stuff in the 70s. There's a lot of big variety shows. I personally hate variety shows. I think they're awful entertainment, generally just bad sketch comedy, people lip syncing to their hits. Whoop, I hated it. Hated it as a little kid. I hate it even more now. But from what I heard, Donnie and Marie did a sketch with a bunch of people from the Cantina. Richard Pryor did something on his show. And so they said, okay, Star Wars makes money. They went to Lucas, who had this idea in his head, or he had a bunch of ideas, and it was about I think it just sounded very Canadian, a boot.
I know what you meant, though.
Yeah, a boot. About Life Day. So the original format was focused around this. Somehow it morphed into getting Chewbacca back. I think that George Lucas's original vision would have been crap anyway, but Lucas barely did anything with it.
That's what it seemed like. His involvement was minimal.
Yeah.
But as we have seen from the prequels, I don't know if his involvement would have made this holiday special, quote unquote, any better.
Probably not. Although Empire and Return of the Jedi are phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I honestly think all of this was worse than Jar Jar. So apparently this went through multiple things, and it almost sort of fell into the hands of two of the writers of the songs. They had some comedy writers. Everything fell completely apart. You knew it was going to be bad. I thought right away in the first 5 seconds, or the first 20 seconds, which is a cold open. Actually, before the cold open, it's Wonder Woman and Incredible Hulk got preempted for this.
Right.
Ratings wise, actually, before I go into this did 13 million, which seems like a lot, but for 78,
it was minuscule. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not very good. Like TV ratings are way down for obvious reasons. Because we can do so much other stuff, watch so much other stuff, do so much other stuff. But it didn't actually even win the time slot. Love Boat beat it.
Wow.
So that to me is fascinating. So this was not just a failure in terms of what the end result was. This was not a rating success. They put in $1 million for it, which was the most they ever did. And it sure didn't show.
Not at all. It looked very cheap. It looked almost like public access level production.
And it was right there from the first 20 seconds where it's Han and Chewie. They're flying away in the Millennium Falcon, being chased by, was it TIE fighters or Imperial cruisers? But it was clearly stuff from the old Star Wars movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just recycled footage. Yeah.
And they weren't even in the same type of cockpit. So it was some kind of weird set created. So already the production value is complete crap by even a 1978 standard if you saw the film.
Yeah.
So it's off to a bad start, and it gets worse even with the opening crawl. Because they do say, okay, well, we got to get you back to Life Day. Okay, that's the plot. There have been worse plots that have done well. But then the opening crawl, did you notice that even the fonts didn't match?
I didn't get quite that granular, but that doesn't surprise me. The lack of attention to any kind of detail.
Yeah. So like the font of a long time ago wasn't the same, and then nothing matched. Then we get 9 minutes of the Wookiee family.
Right.
I wanted to beat the crap out of that little kid right away, Lumpy. And here's the worst part. I'm going to say this a lot. So we're going to flesh out Chewbacca's family. Okay. So he's got a wife that he can't be home too much. I mean, his best friend's is a thief. Yeah. So you're out stealing for a living. So let's be honest. Chewbacca's not exactly a great guy.
Right. And they make it seem like he has this conventional, from human standards, home life with a wife and kid, and I guess the father living with them.
No, this apparently was from Lucas. The kid was named Lumpy, and the father was named Itchy.
And it was short for like Lumbaka or something like that, right? And
I don't know. I mean, did they make that canon afterwards?
Right.
And just sort of like come up with something?
Right. Well, obviously it was an obvious play on Chewie. They were trying to have the audience, be familiar with the, kind of name that Chewie has. But it just did not work at all.
I don't care how decrepit I get in my old age. If someone's calling me Itchy, we got a problem.
Yeah, yeah,
Like that's just not going to work. Oh, I forgot there was sort of like end of the Star Wars special, and it's Luke Scott. They did all of that.
yeah,
Who was in it, and then the weird cast of characters that you wonder how the hell are they going to fit this in? Which, as you mentioned
right.
before, we had B. Arthur, Diane Carroll. That was the weirdest thing. Can't wait till we get to
That was I found that to be the most problematic, the Diane Carroll segment, but we can get more into that.
yeah. Art Carney, and then a musical performance by the Jefferson Starship. Like, huh?
Right. Yeah. So on the nose, Jefferson Starship in a Star Wars special.
Well, hey, they got star in the name. It's got to make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
God damn it. And I'm sure they thought it was going to be huge. But so we have 9 minutes of, I guess, this perfect home life. Gender roles are very much defined in Kashyyyk.
Yes.
That we learned
Chewie's
that.
wife is, yeah, cooking, even has an apron on.
Yep. We revere the elder, and then we take care of the kid. Chewbacca's off doing God knows what, making Mala take care of the kid. So
Right.
I don't
Right.
think maybe Chewbacca's a deadbeat dad. I don't think he's home too much. I got a feeling that might be the case. So
Yeah.
the dialogue is literally 9 minutes of
Right. And no subtitles even. Just you're supposed to, guess what's going on from their
it's
body
just,
movements.
and it's just boring.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the biggest sin of it all. This was boring. When I watched this, I did it in 4 segments because I couldn't watch
Okay.
it straight through. I couldn't do it.
I was actually the opposite. I was just like so fascinated. It was like, wow, this was actually on network television. One of the
Yeah.
biggest blockbusters of the decade. This is what they came up with for a TV special.
Because there was no head cook.
Yeah.
That was the other interesting thing. I might be wrong on the name, but they got someone after they started filming, a guy named Steve Pinder, to
Okay.
do all the directing for it. Now he'd done the Elvis '68 comeback special, which
Okay.
I'm not an Elvis guy, but I rewatched that special just
Uh-huh.
to put that in context. And man, you could see why Elvis was such a big deal at that point in time and what
Yeah.
he captured with him. He also did the Tammy Show, which was in 1964, I think one of the first big concert films that was ever done. This guy was just there to take a paycheck,
Yeah.
which he more or less said in interviews after. So he wasn't even involved
Interestingly,
in post-production.
did the Tammy Show happen to have Debbie Reynolds in it, Carrie Fisher's mother? Or not? I'm thinking of the character Tammy. I think because she played a character named Tammy in several movies. I think.
No, I might. No, I mean like it was like the Beatles, the Beach Boys,
Okay.
like so an actual real James Brown. It was just
Okay. So
incredible
real.
for its time. So like he came
Yeah.
from the world of music, but he lent his name to a turkey and just took the money.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah. A
I
cash
think
grab.
Yeah, well,
As
I think
they say.
I was reading too. A lot of people took this and thought, well, hey, it's like an annuity. Every year I'm going to get a check, but then they never they never aired this again.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a disaster. Yeah.
So let's see, 9 minutes of this. It's just nonsense. Blumpy's being annoying. Then at one point he goes off on a balcony ledge, which will be integral to the plot later.
Of course.
I was hoping that Lumpy was going to fall off at that point. For what it's worth, the person in that costume was a 40-year-old female dwarf. If anyone cares.
Yeah. From the way she was walking on the ledge, I was like, that's not a little kid. I mean, I knew it was, they probably use a stunt double for at least that
Right.
part, but it was pretty obvious it was not a child.
Everything's just so bad. This just it looked like a 1950s house with a few things. Oh, well, this is futuristic.
Yeah.
No, it's from a long time ago. Then they basically they go to Skyping Luke, and
Yeah.
well, I guess it is some technology that came through. Luke did not look like Luke Skywalker.
Yeah. And isn't the rumor that the car accident that he had like the year before, that's why he was wearing so much makeup and his hair
Yeah.
was like, he had bangs and like covering the scars. But I've heard like that's sort of an urban legend that he did have the car accident, but he had gone like on an award show and presented an award before this aired. And, he didn't have like visible scars that would have warranted all the makeup he was wearing.
But I thought that also in The Empire Strikes Back, like when one of the early scenes, he gets clawed in the head by that one
Right.
creature. Which
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that should cover to explain why he looks a little different, more
Yeah. Yeah.
weather scarred. Although I'm going to say, Mark Hamill as an older gentleman. Not that I'm into other guys, but geez, he's aging pretty damn good as a senior guy. He looks the rugged thing
Yeah.
it works for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I think.
Well, it always helps when you still have a full head of hair.
I know it's approaching 50 from the neck up. I feel pretty good for my age. Neck down, it's a train wreck down there, but so be it. But yeah, Luke did not look like Luke. Pounds of makeup, probably like you said, to cover the facial scarring that likely transpired, but it was bad. And then it was another bad skit where he's trying to fix an engine, R2's screwing everything up. He says, Mala, come on, smile. I'm sure Chewie will be there for Life Day.
Right.
Right. I don't know whether we were supposed to chuckle a bit at R2's antics. I guess so. But then with the background music, the scoring of it, it's supposed to pull at heartstrings. All it did is pull on a gag reflex for me. That was
exactly.
awful. Where do we go from there? So then calls Art Carney, playing a character called Sean Dan, a traitor. Did you feel like Carney was, I mean, you can see that with Carney, not so much Corman. Corman was terrible in this, but
yeah, he was.
His timing, like you just see this guy is a pro. Like he made the most of what they gave him.
Yeah. And I really cannot for the life of me figure out why he was cast. Was it to, CBS has always had the reputation of being, appealing to older viewers. So it was sort of like we're trying to give some, a little something for everyone. Kids with the Chewie's son character, and then Art Carney for like older people who hadn't seen the Star Wars movie. And I have to say, society is much more ageist today than it was back then, because you would never have like a blockbuster movie that had 3 major players with gray hair: B. Arthur, Art Carney, and Corman. I mean, you just wouldn't see that today. I mean, you everything is so youth obsessed now. It just goes to show that era of, whatever age you are, as long as you're still popular, we'll still have you on the air. Unfortunately, that's kind of gone by the wayside.
I think it's Bill Maher who said a few times that the only acceptable prejudice right now is ageism.
Yeah.
And I think there was certainly something to that. Yeah, you're right. If they were to try to redo this today, I don't know who they would stunt cast.
Right.
But yeah. So we learned that Art Carney's character, I'm just going to call him Art Carney for the rest of this. I'm not even going to humor myself with the character name. He's a traitor, and I guess a secret friend of the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
Mala calls, and then another Skype thing while he's got an Imperial guard, not a guard, Imperial. So somebody who works for the Empire.
Yeah, exactly.
Who steals crap? He steals a groomer.
Right.
Okay, and then Art Carney tries to use his. He had great comedic timing. Not that anything was funny.
Yeah, like you said, he's a pro. He was doing the most of what they gave him, doing the most with the material he had.
I think also too, like with that one, whoever was playing that guard, I think they dubbed in a voice later.
You think so?
Well, yeah, it was just this deep voice that just didn't sort of fit this.
Okay.
And then his back was always to us, but.
Okay, so they were trying to do like the sort of the James Earl Jones kind of evoke that authority, but the actor didn't have the gravitas.
It could be. I don't know for sure. I tried to find that out, and then I didn't look that hard after. It was just I can't be bothered with this. Then we get our own cutaway, which it looks like they did probably some old clip that they didn't use for the original Star Wars film of Darth Vader talking to some other officer who I don't remember in the Star Wars film. He walks by and then says, and then a little nod, we'll find these rebels. We have to search every household in the galaxy. Get it? Household? That's what we used to call. Yeah. So like, oh, maybe Darth's going to come and knock at our door. Uh-oh.
Right. Yeah, that was obviously an outtake from Star Wars. They obviously did not film
Yeah.
that specifically for the special.
I hope, and then I got to figure what. So James Earl Jones cuts that voice, and that's got to be the easiest paycheck he ever made.
Oh yeah,
It would
yeah,
have to be. And good
yeah,
on him for getting it. He's the
yeah,
only one who was contractually obligated to do that, who didn't have to embarrass himself,
yeah, exactly.
except for maybe
Yeah,
Anthony Daniels,
yeah, true.
who was C-3PO.
Right.
Then we get, God, Mala cooking. Because
Oh
again,
my
we've
God.
got to keep the gender thing going. So she's cooking, I guess, for Life Day, getting inspiration from, there's a device there so that I guess she can stream her favorite cooking show. And it's Harvey Korman who's trying to do what he can with this, but it's awful.
Yeah, he's doing like a space age Julia Childs, obviously.
Yeah,
It's supposed to be a takeoff on, at least that's how it seemed to me, a takeoff on Julia Childs.
it's not funny.
Yeah,
Nothing he's doing is funny except for maybe when he now he, I guess it's she has 2 extra arms and then just using a whole bit of that.
right,
He's making the
right.
most of it, and it's just not working.
Yeah,
Mala can't keep up because she only has 2 arms. Lumpy's doing dishes. I'm reevaluating life. It's
yeah. This is one of those things that if it was just like a 30-second skit on
yeah.
Carol Burnett or something would have been passable, but as a segment of a 2-hour special, yeah, did not work at all. A complete waste of airtime.
Then we get back to Han and Chewie, who the first time we saw them, they left hyperspace.
Right.
Well, clearly the Empire is everywhere because they're doing right back where they started, being chased, using old footage again. Like I've seen Star Wars so many times, like I know each time which clip this is from.
Yeah,
Nothing has changed from it.
Yeah.
Those, like, Harrison Ford looks like he'd rather be anywhere else in the entire world, and he probably did.
Right.
I read he wanted to get out of it, but contractually he was locked in.
Okay.
And they all wanted to get out. None of them wanted to do it. Apparently they wanted Mark Hamill to sing. He got out of that.
Well, which is interesting since he's a theater guy, right? Hasn't he won like theater awards for doing musicals?
I don't know. I don't think so. I know he's done exceptionally well as a voice actor.
Yeah, I saw an interview with him where he was like bragging about his Drama Desk Award for some musical or something he did. So it's interesting that even he was like, well, this is so bad, I don't even want to sing in this.
Okay.
When he had been trying to make the transition to theater all along.
Yeah, Mark Hamill's an interesting individual to me. You're typecast for something. Harrison Ford, I think just because he had that traditional movie star good looks.
Yeah. And kind of had that Clark Gable kind of like, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn kind of attitude.
Yeah. And then just got good opportunities and made the most of them. Even his failure in those first few years became a cult classic in Blade Runner.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that was a box office bomb. A lot of people trashed that at the time. But Hamill never escaped it. And then he just went into voice acting and has done so well for himself.
Yeah.
In that it's like, it's one of those things where if you really look at his overall body of work, I got typecast. Yeah, I'm a millionaire. Yeah. And I'm doing a lot of voice acting, and that's real acting. It really is. And kudos on him. But so anyways, they're going around. We learned that there's a blockade around the Wookiee planet, which isn't a very good one. Because
right.
Two crafts would get there. And then Art Carney shows up and he's got gifts, all of which would be used later. We never really learned why he would be friends with this family, but that again, he's trying to be funny. He's not. Oh God, here we go. Itchy gets a cartridge, and again, there's this little machine where I guess it's virtual reality.
Yeah, exactly.
And in a creepy old man moment, as I'm rapidly reaching that point in life, I think some younger viewers, if we
Yeah,
have any,
yeah,
say, hey,
right.
Buchner, you're already there. Just says, oh, you're really gonna like it. Woo. And just like, what are we at? Pervert role here at the strip club? This is
Yeah, yeah. Which is so confusing. You think of a holiday special as like being like for a quote unquote family audience, like the
yeah.
whole family, no matter what age you are, can tune in. That's why I go back to this was a product of the 70s, because it was like, kind of the post sexual revolution and kind of that mindset of, you can have a little like raunchy double entendre. This wasn't even double entendre. It was pretty explicit that it was like softcore porn that could pass the censors.
That's what it was.
Yeah, yeah,
And I'll say this. So we go to Itchy's clearly excited, and he's got this montage of this. You remember as a kid, did you ever have like one of those kaleidoscope things?
yes, yeah. I had one of those. Yep.
All right, so it looked like they used that filter, and then we see Diane Carroll. Now Diane Carroll's looking amazing.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Beautiful woman.
oh my god, I could see why Itchy was getting excited. I don't know that I would want him in. I don't. How do I put this? I had a grandpa who was a pervert. I'll say that right now. Just in some ways, he was a disgusting individual.
Was
But
he like the dirty old man, just always telling like crude jokes and
he was a dirty old man because he was also a player too. When
okay.
he
Okay.
cheated on his grandmother all the time.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's
Yeah, it was that boys will be boys era back then.
right. But never did I sort of ever catch him masturbating to a woman in the living room.
That would have been traumatizing to you.
Right. And that's kind of what we have here. And Diane Carroll's given this verbiage, basically saying, like, I'm your fantasy. I'm here. I'm here just for you. And looking in the camera like she meant it. She was gorgeous. Now I'm sounding like a dirty old man. But
no, she is. I mean, she was. I mean, beautiful. I mean, sex. She definitely was a sex symbol. But the reason why I find this segment the most problematic is because I'm all for diversity, obviously, as an African American. But the only Black person in the 2-hour special is a Black woman. You're hypersexualizing, basically
an object.
A porn star. I mean, this was obviously meant to be softcore porn. And I think of Diane Carroll as being a real class act. So I don't know if this was another case of she signed the contract and then, there was nothing she could do about it once she read the script. So she's like, I just might as well make the most of it and, make this old man get off.
Well, she might not even know in what context that was being used. Okay,
But how can you not know when you're saying you really are excited, aren't you? And I'm I mean, come on. You have to know as a woman how you're being. And her gown, even though when they showed the full shot, she was wearing a full gown. But I mean, it was, a lot of her chest was showing. It was like off the shoulder. So I don't know how she could not have known she was being sexualized in that way. I'm not blaming her I'm just saying.
She wasn't the first choice, actually. You know who was?
Who?
Cher.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, Cher was obviously really hot at that time. I mean, hot in the sense of popular.
You could say, well, in both ways, yeah.
Well, I guess it's just personal preference. I don't see Cher and Diane Carroll as being equal. I see Diane Carroll as way more of a sex symbol, and Cher is more of a, I don't know, personality who can be sexy at times, but is not the level of ba 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 boom of Diane Carroll. But that's just my personal opinion.
Okay, see, so I'm gonna sort of like do this from like the geeky white point of view.
Okay.
So as a little kid, right? So you're seeing Cher, and then she was married to Sonny Bono. I was like, what the hell? How did you pull that off? And then you see Tony Tennille and the goofy captain.
Yeah.
Like, well, shit. I'm gonna grow up because I'm only 5'8", right? But I was always the shortest kid in class. I figure, well, I'm gonna be a short nerd. I'm screwed. Well, maybe I'm not.
Okay, so I can get a babe too if Sonny Bono and if the captain can do it, then I can too. Okay, I mean,
look at those two clowns.
Yeah.
Actually, who was Diane Carroll with?
She was married to Vic Damone.
Wasn't she also with Sidney Poitier? But wasn't there somebody in between where it just doesn't?
Yeah, fit? she and Sidney Poitier had like an affair. I don't think it was like a public but she
Oh, okay.
later, they both acknowledged it in their autobiographies.
Okay.
But yeah, but not to blow smoke, but don't compare yourself to Sonny Bono or the Captain. You're not, yeah, you're way above those trolls. So
Well, thank you, I think.
yeah.
They did a lot better than I did in terms of not in terms of who I have a great wife, but in terms of their bank account, I'm sure they blow me away.
Yeah, it was the music thing. It was like that women love musicians for some reason.
Well, it's also sort of transfixed it to in our cartoons now. Lois Griffin, Peter Griffin.
Yeah, yeah.
Of course, it's always been that way.
The honeymooners. I mean, look at that.
That's true too. That's very true.
Yeah, it's always the schlubby guy and the like beautiful wife, basically.
So, but yeah, I think though when they were casting this, I don't think a lot of them were thinking, okay, because at that point they weren't thinking, well, we have to have at least one minority on this.
No.
I don't know if they would have changed the dialogue one way or the other if it was Cher instead of Diane Carroll.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
But
yeah.
So I don't think that was sort of their messed up representation, because I don't think they looked at that. Just to your point, if we're looking at it in the 1978 eyes,
yeah,
they weren't thinking in those terms. So
yeah.
I know she was objectified, but I would like to think that the race had nothing to do with it. It was just bad writing, and they wanted to see what they could get away with.
Right. They were going to objectify the actress doing that role, whoever it was, whatever race she was. But they obviously did not have the consciousness to think, oh, now that we have a Black woman in this role, we need to change the dialogue so it doesn't look like we're making this Black woman look like all Black women are good for is to be a sex object. Well, they obviously didn't have that kind of consciousness back then.
Or they might have been thinking the opposite, thinking, well, look, here's a Black woman. Look how progressive we are. She's sexy to everybody, including an old Wookiee.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, there was actually something later on that I want to get your take on the end of it, because it just sort of felt a bit appropriating, and maybe I'm just looking at it through woke eye. Not that I consider myself woke, but we're so inundated with wokeness.
Yeah, looking at it through 21st century eyes.
Yeah. So then we go there. Then we finally get C-3PO and Leia. Princess Leia's working on, I don't know what she's working on. Looks like she's an old school accountant with what's on her desk.
Exactly, looked like an adding machine.
Yeah, it looked like one of those. And so then she says, "Hey, is anyone there?" No. Calls Mala like, "Where's Han? Where's Chewie?" No one's there. And then basically she kind of brushes off Mala, says, "Okay, is there anyone there I could talk to? Do I understand?" Right. And then, "Oh, here's Art Carney. Oh, you'll take care of my friends, right? Yeah, I trust you. I've never met you before in my life."
Right.
All right. Worked out, but
yeah, but I have to say, Art Carney didn't seem like the greatest. Like you're trusting this guy who, like, obviously he's not like a buff, soldier or something. Why does she think this guy is going to protect these huge Wookiees? This little chubby older man is going to protect these Wookiees from the Imperial forces. I don't really that doesn't compute as like many things in this episode.
What's he gonna do? Do bad one-liners? Which he did.
Yeah, which he did. I guess he was like, his purpose was to distract him. He was the distraction.
But then they're just trying to make her feel good, like, Mala, it's gonna be okay, the doting wife.
Yeah.
And then they hear a ship, like, oh, it must be them, and it's not. It's 2 stormtroopers and 2 officers. Oh no, right. What will happen?
Right.
Then they're looking around everything. They open up something, looks like some box they found in a prop department, which is, I guess, one of the gifts that was given by Art Carney. And it's just a hologram. Oh, so before we get there, I mean, they're all looking for this. So I hear that I understand that there's 3 adult Wookiees and a child. Like, you don't have their names? There was no census done here on Kashyyyk? Nothing?
Yeah, this is the Empire, and you don't have the names and everything else of the people who live in every household.
Yeah, we're just happy. Okay, well, we're Wookiees. Well, where's the other one? Well, maybe.
Right.
Yeah. Anyways, Art Carney opens up a box and it's a hologram and it's Jefferson's Starship, who suck. This song is awful. Although if you ever listen to Miracles, that's a very good song by them. Other than that, this was completely pointless. I hated it.
Yeah, and it was just that, again, trying to throw everything in the blender. Like, okay, we'll get rock fans, we'll get fans of like older showbiz type music. So yeah, it was just, again, just so uneven and so disjointed.
Well, the Imperial Guard loved it. He was just enthralled by watching this music video. This was like the best thing that he ever saw, and he didn't have to work.
Yeah,
like everyone's sort of searching the house. He just gets to slack off, just sort of like watch this. Then they're looking for clues. Well, then they go to the cartoon. A lot of Star Wars fans, from what I've been reading, they think this is the best part of it. I don't know why, other than the fact it introduced Boba Fett, but I thought the animation was terrible.
Yeah, especially like Han's face, like with the like really elongated chin and the way C-3PO kept like moving, and yeah, it was really weird, the animation.
Right. Well, C-3PO and R2-D2, I mean, they're robots. They're made of metal. It's the most flexible metal I've ever seen.
Yeah.
C-3PO had a neck that was just a stick on on time.
Right.
Luke's eyes were giant. Leia's eyes were ginormous, and Han had no eyes at all.
Yeah, his eyes were like slits.
Apparently, Lucas loved it, but the whole point of this was to introduce Boba Fett, which they did. I didn't think this was particularly good, and the Boba Fett turns out to befriend them only to capture them later. Blah blah blah. Chewie knew all along because he smelled. That was the punchline.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, it was totally obvious that Boba Fett was going to betray them.
But they did accomplish that. I think if you're watching that for the first time in 78, you might think, well, I want to see more of this character. So they did accomplish that goal. Yeah. I sure as hell didn't want to see any more of these animators, but they apparently impressed Lucas so much that they were the ones who worked on Saturday morning cartoons for them later. So the droids and Ewoks, that was a cartoon in the 80s. That was them.
Okay.
And their animation got better.
Right. Do you think that, though, people knew that Boba Fett was going to be in Empire Strikes Back? Because there seemed to be no threads connecting, like, teasing this is what's coming up in the next Star Wars movie. It was just like a lot of random stuff thrown together.
No, Lucas did, because that was part of the pre-production, but that wasn't. If you were just watch this as a standalone, you wouldn't know that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it just seemed like a lost opportunity. I mean, to not. I mean, as brilliant as the people Lucas and the other people who made Star Wars seemed to be at marketing, it just seemed like there was no, either subtle or blatant, like, okay, this is what's coming up in the next installment. This is why we're showing you
this. Well, now we move back to the house. They're ransacking Lumpy's room, wrecking everything. Now, if you didn't know they were bad guys, well, you know now, because they're making a little Wookiee sad. And then
they make him clean up their mess that they tore his room apart. It's like, I'm sure there's
then go says to the kid, go clean up your room. Well, that little kid's got a plan, because he just happened to get a gift from Art Carney that allows him to create a transmitter, which we have Harvey Korman again trying to do a bit as an android. It's, again, not funny. It just fails. This is probably the least funny thing Harvey Korman's ever done.
Yeah, and you know what's weird is when he did the cooking segment, he had on makeup that made him look like a robot, but in this, he had nothing to make him look like he wasn't a human. It was like, why not even put like silver paint on his face or something? Because it was like when he starts acting glitchy like an android, it's like, it took me a while to realize, oh, he's playing an android. It was just weird.
Well, they didn't even have him act glitchy. They just sort of like did very bad, which was good for the time.
Yeah,
well, not really. So yeah, would just sort of like be like 1 second off. I actually wrote in my notes here. Some of the writers had actually worked with, like, for the Wookiee dialogue, they were working with, there's two names I haven't heard in 25 years. There used to be a mime act called Shields and Yarnell,
I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and so they
remember them.
would work for them. Well, why not get one of them to sort of like play that? They could
Yeah. Yeah.
probably do it
Exactly.
without the shitty editing. It would have been just
Yeah.
as bad.
Yeah.
You might have
And they
saved
could have had
some.
someone dub. They could have even had Corman dub the voice in if they wanted to just use Harvey Korman in all these segments that they used him in.
They
But Shields and
could.
Now, one of them would have been brilliant. That would have been a great 70s pop culture reference.
Not that I, not that I'm a fan of mimes in any capacity, but I'm sure they could have got them.
Yeah.
But and it probably would have cost them less than some guy trying to figure out editing.
Yeah.
Because at that point, that was probably cutting edge for them.
Yeah.
Well, he puts this crap together. Oh, can't, and we're then, yeah. And then a required viewing pop-up. I guess it's like a pop-up that just shows up on your TV and you don't have a choice. And it's Life on Tatooine. Why this is required viewing for anyone at this point, I don't know. And it's just a clip. We just go to the bar, which is supposed to be the Mos Eisley space or cantina. Did you ever, like when you were a kid, did you get all those toys?
I got some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, the one
I
I
did.
what I always wanted the most was the cantina set, but I never did get it.
Yeah. Yeah. I didn't have that one.
Yeah.
I had
So
the Millennium Falcon,
I destroyed that so quickly.
but did you really?
Oh God, yeah. I tried to see if it would fly off the roof. Yeah, it didn't work out too good. Anyway,
Didn't go into warp speed, huh?
no, I didn't go into work too. Went to the pool. The neighbor's pool.
Oh no.
Yeah, neighbors didn't like that, but oh well. So this another bad set, and then we see B. Arthur, and then I read that B. Arthur didn't even know what this was.
She didn't know what Star Wars was.
No, it's
Wow.
but she was happy to sing.
Yeah, because she came out of theater as well, right?
Yeah, apparently she played Mame.
Okay.
Mame in that on Broadway at one point. Maude had just gone off the air that spring, so Maude was a huge hit for CBS.
Yeah, part of that Norman Lear franchise.
Yeah. So this was a pretty big star.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at a decent point in her career. So I think for the way I understood it, they got her because she could sing, because as long as she could sing. I don't think she can sing particularly well, but she got the right song for it. But again, we have Harvey Korman again, who is smitten with B. Arthur. We get two bad jokes from it. One that he drinks from a hole in his head, and and then before the second joke, there was another thing that wouldn't pass the Me Too censors now, where he's clearly smitten with B. Arthur, and then he grabs her from behind, and he's so happy. Like, you can't really do that now, nor should you.
No.
You've done that then.
Right.
Yeah. No personal space issues. And then he said, basically, it was come back soon, I'll be waiting. That was the joke. And then he thought, well, that meant she was interested in me. And then he sees her say that to another patron. Oh, and that was the end of Harvey Korman's trifecta of shit.
Yeah. Good way to put it.
Looked like Rick Baker, who was the guy who did a lot of the costumes before, like the renowned makeup artist who won piles of Academy Awards, was here. I think they used a lot of the old things, because so the Walrus Man, Greedo, Hammerhead, a lot of the same stuff.
Yeah.
It was so hot, apparently, they had to take off the mask all the time and give them oxygen. Some of these people were fainting on set.
Wow.
It was just another mess of them not having all the stuff ready. Culminates into, actually, no, it doesn't culminate in that yet. Their video thing says, oh, now everything, they've got a video thing from the Empire. Well, now there's a blockade or curfew on Tatooine.
Yeah, which was weird watching this in, post-COVID, well, hopefully post-COVID, about a lockdown.
Yeah.
And then the whole song is about her getting all the characters in the bar to try to leave.
And it worked. I mean, if I saw her B. Arthur singing, I'd leave a room too. Because I know she loves it, but I don't think she's particularly good at it. But this was the right song for her. It kind of felt like the melody of "These were the days, my friend. I thought they'd never end," and it was just singing like, You can't, it's time to go. And then it worked. They were all singing. She bought a round on the house. I don't know how that bar makes any money.
Yeah, and then it sort of had the melody of the tune they were playing in the cantina in Star Wars.
Yeah. And she leads a conga line, and then they all left. Even after one of them put a gun to her belly, they treat her like crap. But you know, if you sing with a bunch of creatures, then that works.
Yeah.
All right. Then we return to, well, what do we have? Oh yeah, back there. Lumpy's machine works. Fake some kind. I don't know. It was a transmitter, but it didn't say how it could change people's voices. I guess it could. So it says, okay, return to base. And they did, except for left one stormtrooper behind. Luckily for everyone, it was the dumbest stormtrooper.
Right.
He stays behind. What do we got here? Stormtrooper goes upstairs, realizes, oh my God, Lumpy tricked me. And then a very lame chase scene happened between somebody who's probably never said, okay, just put on that suit and just didn't know how to wear it, chasing a dwarf in a costume who couldn't go very fast downstairs. This is the worst chase scene since anything Steven Seagal's done in the last 20 years.
Yeah. It's like a horror movie chase scene where the zombie has to go at like, take one pace every hour, when obviously the victim can easily get away. But
and then it gets worse. Lumpy runs outside and
right.
Stormtrooper's there, and then out comes Chewbacca. Chewbacca runs sort of, he sidesteps the Stormtrooper to protect his kid. Like, you're goddamn Chewbacca. Boom. You could have just like cuffed him in the head and that would have been it. Just to let
Did they even show Han and Chewbacca arriving, or was it just like
No, they just showed up.
Yeah.
Because that blockade that also Art Carney got through. So I mean, like, what kind of blockade is this?
Right.
So there's Han, and then knocks the gun away, and then the Stormtrooper trips over the gun. What is this, Benny Hill? And then falls down the treehouse, and then he dies that way, presumably. Like, what? You can show Diane Carroll trying to give someone pleasure, but you can't show a laser blast, or even just physically. No, the Stormtrooper had to do it himself because he's
and I'm sure Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk had scenes where they were fighting and throwing people around. So I don't know why they couldn't have had it in the Star Wars holiday special.
I'm sure Hulk did. I don't remember, like Wonder Woman. I just remembered, as I look back at some of those old clips. I mean, now you can't get away with casting someone like her only because she, what's her name? Damn it.
Linda Carter.
Thank you. Only because Linda Carter clearly has no athletic skills.
Yeah.
Because even when she tries to twirl, it's like, there's a little shimmy to it. She can't do it. Like, if she can't twirl, I can't believe that you could kick someone's ass.
Right.
They
weren't going for athletic Wonder Woman. They were going for a beauty pageant Wonder Woman.
And it worked.
Yeah.
And it certainly sat there, but then we have another lame moment here. Han Solo. Lumpy, you sure have grown. Oh, I can't stay for life. Say, some friend you are, because you showed up later. So, like, what? You couldn't have just stuck around for a little bit?
Yeah, that made no sense.
Then I stopped writing notes because I was just, again, reevaluating life and then wondering why I wasn't drinking more than I usually.
And the whole Life Day thing was really bizarre and very psychedelic. And it's like when they finally showed the gathering of the Wookiees in their robes, okay, how did Princess Leia and C-3PO and the whole gang get there? Because it looked like the Wookiees were going through some kind of space portal to get there. And you didn't see anyone else in the lineup of people walking through the space portal.
Did you ever see Logan's Run?
I've seen parts of it. I haven't seen the whole thing.
I almost felt like they were using the robes from that movie, and apparently they were running out of money. So they just used the robes so that all the extra Wookiees, they didn't have to like put them all in fur costumes.
Okay.
So like that was like a weird plot device just to get out of the fact they were out of cash.
Yeah. And it was very weird. It made it look like they were going to do some kind of sacrifice.
Maybe they were. Maybe they get sacrificed. Yeah, it's Life Day, so we sacrifice one life for yours. I don't know.
Yeah,
Very Aztec-like.
right.
So then they all showed up, even though none of them said they were going to show up. You know, at any point in time, there's 3PO. They're all there. I don't ever, except for Han, I don't remember anyone saying I was going to the planet to celebrate this day. And then Leia makes it all about her. It says, no, it doesn't matter that we're not Wookiees. It matters what we all are. Kind of makes me think of these like white liberals posting something for Juneteenth. That's
Yeah,
kind of where I was
exactly.
going for that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
That was, yeah, I see that for sure.
Which I'm sure that was certainly not what they were thinking. But if a Wookiee can't talk and you're not using subtitles, I guess you need someone else to explain it.
Yeah, it's like basically
Yes.
they're portraying, yeah, they're portraying the Wookiees as like an indigenous tribe. So here you have this
Mhm.
privileged white woman, like you said, appropriating their culture. She has to be the one to sing the song because no, we don't want to hear a Wookiee singing. But
Probably don't.
no,
To be fair, we probably don't
yeah,
want
yeah.
that at all. Allegedly, she was promised that she could sing.
Okay,
And
okay,
so some said that's why she agreed to do it, but contractually she had to. But I guess from putting it all together, I guess she was less upset about it. Uh, Carrie Fisher, I think the person in many ways was a national treasure.
hmm.
As an actress in Star Wars, I thought she was actual shit.
Really? Even the
Yep.
original?
Even the
Wow.
original. And got better in Empire, and it got better in Return of the Jedi. But she even acknowledges, because I took my parents for their 50th anniversary to see Carrie Fisher. That's when she was doing a one-man show when we were living in
Oh, yeah,
Toronto. My
yeah,
wife and I took
yeah.
her to that. And even she said that she was terrible. And she referenced the fact that I can't unhear it every time I see it. And it's so true then. During the first part of that film, she was talking as if she was British.
Yes. Because
And
wasn't she going to the Royal Academy or something at that time?
I think probably, I don't know. Or maybe there was also a lot of British stage actors that they got to round out the role.
Right.
And I think that's sort of like, sometimes there's like good stereotypes. I don't know if there's any stereotypes that's good, but I always think that if I hear a British accent, I almost automatically assume they're much smarter than me.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
they weirdly, they're much better at doing American accents than Americans are at doing British accents.
But I don't blame, but looking back, I don't blame Carrie for that. I blame George Lucas, who I think is a
Yeah.
great visionary, but a shitty director in many ways.
Yeah.
Because
Didn't
he
she
should
say
have caught
that
that.
didn't she, I know I've seen interviews with her where she was like she would ask for direction or whatever,
Yeah.
and he would just, well, just do it like you did it before in the last take.
Yeah.
Like he would give absolutely no direction.
Yeah, what he envisioned was incredible. And American Graffiti, I don't know if you've seen that one.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's pretty amazing.
I think that's great. I think he did a phenomenal job there. But then he got suckered. I don't want to say suckered. He went so far into a fantasy world that I don't know that he could necessarily direct people anymore.
Yeah, I
And
agree.
that sort of shows to me where he let Carrie go off, and like, how do you not catch this? That she sounds completely different at the beginning. I don't know, but I thought she got much better, and I love Carrie Fisher. I
Uh-huh.
love her to pieces. Didn't love her in this. Didn't love her at all. But yeah, so then they're singing. Chewie's got a montage in his head of just everything that happened. I don't.
That was,
When
yeah,
they
that
were
was like a
Star Wars.
highlight reel from start. That
Yeah.
was another wasted opportunity. It's like they could have been. I guess they hadn't done any filming yet on Empire, but
No, they
why
haven't.
not show? Why not use that as an opportunity to show what's coming up in the next movie? Instead, they do a highlight reel from a movie that everybody's already seen at that point. So it was
A lot of
just,
people might not have.
you don't think do you think
Well,
it was still playing in theaters in by 78?
yeah, because I remember, again, I don't know how this was elsewhere, but I know that, again, we're talking right before the video era.
True,
So
true.
I'm trying to remember when we started going into video stores. And I think that was like in the
It was,
early
yeah,
80s,
mid 80s, I want to say.
or maybe even before that, but still, like, it wasn't, you weren't going to catch that on video. And I don't think it was even released on video yet. So if you
Right.
didn't see it in the theater, and then it got re-released, period, like every year. I
That's
remember they
true.
would put it back in the
They did
theater.
do re-releases back then. Yeah.
So there was probably a lot of people who never saw it.
That's true.
You know, especially maybe if you're like out in the boonies where there is no movie theater.
That's yeah. And I do remember even before they would re-release a movie, movies would play for months and months because there were
Yeah.
fewer releases back then.
Yeah. So I don't think at that point, it's Lucas too, from what I read, he was busy on pre-production. So there was
Okay.
nothing that he could possibly do. I guess his contribution was get this cartoon in, and there's Boba. Okay. But again, fantasy world, fantasy brilliant, other things not so much.
Yeah.
But he also didn't care. He walked away from it. You know, like that's so whose fault? I think we should sort of play this, then it goes to the end credit. So I want to play a game here with you. Whose fault is this?
My opinion is it's George Lucas's fault because it's your baby. If you're too busy on pre-production, then unless they're giving you just a mountain of cash that you're going to use for, the next movie or whatever, I don't see any purpose. The movie was already a blockbuster.
Mhm.
If you're not there to oversee things, this is what happens when your vision is kind of taken and made a monstrosity of. So I would put the fault on George Lucas's shoulders because it was his vision, and like you said, he walked away from it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Half of that, yeah, he's half my blame. The other half is just CBS itself. I mean, they allowed this. They allowed a runaway train to happen. You know, and I think they thought, well, we've got this name. It's a Star Wars name. Everyone's going to want to watch this. And
Right.
surprisingly, because 13 million, that's a bad number for what I would have thought. You know,
Do you
looking
think
back at this.
once the CBS execs saw it, they didn't promote it? Do you think that, or do you think viewers kind of sense this is going to be crap, and I don't want my Star Wars experience ruined?
I think from what I could see, they did promote it, but there's only so much thing you can promote back then. You're promoting
Yeah.
like on your TV. You're doing that. I found like ads like in newspapers, so they're promoting it. People were writing about it.
I wonder if it like made the cover of TV Guide that week.
I don't know. I'm sure they did promote. Actually, I'm not sure if they promoted it or not. But maybe when you're just seeing something like this starring, hey, it's Star Wars, co-starring B. Arthur, it's like, eh.
Yeah.
You might figure like, what does Maude have to do with this? And that might have been something that people said, well, you know what, I'll catch the next one.
True.
Apparently, and I was reading where people were doing reviews of it at the time, and then oral histories, and people just turned it off partway through. Back then, I don't know how the Nielsen boxes worked, so I don't think they could necessarily determine like from 15-minute intervals.
Right.
They probably had 13 million tune in. I wonder how many tuned out.
Good point. Like how many watched it all the way through?
Like I don't imagine a whole lot. I think if you're, especially when you're doing you can't come up with a worse open. And Lucas, as much as I sort of ragged on him a bit, each of those original movies, those 30-minute act ones are brilliant.
Yeah.
And all three of them, they're fantastic. Yeah. And this is the exact opposite. 9 minutes of Wookiee dialogue, and it's just homemaking. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I don't know how we're gonna bottom this because I can't say top this for next week, but we will. For those who want to see more of Chris, tell everyone about the documentary that you've done, if you can.
Yeah, so Lady Wrestler, the amazing untold story of African-American women in the ring, profiles Black women who integrated pro wrestling in the 50s. Ethel Johnson, who was a WWE Hall of Fame inductee this year. Her sisters, Babs Wingo and Marva Scott, and also features an interview with Ramona Isbell, another trailblazer. So that's on Amazon Prime Video right now.
Yeah, and you don't have to be a wrestling fan to really understand what Chris has put together. It's about wrestling, but it's about so much more.
Yeah, I definitely approached it from the Black history angle. I mean, it's Black history. First of all, it's American history, but it's Black history, it's women's history, it's sports history, it's a snapshot of America in the 50s, and how phenomenal these women were when a lot of women weren't even working outside the home, let alone traveling all around the world, you know, taking on opponents of all different races.
And a bit of self-promotion here. I'm hoping that but in a couple of weeks, I'll have something available on Amazon. I ghost wrote for the late, great Chavo Guerrero Sr., and hopefully
Awesome.
his book will be coming out. Just finishing up some details on that now in terms of how you put the book together. I'm learning so much about this. I'm never going to write a book for a wrestler ever again in my life.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I did it. And that I'm glad that should finally see the light of day. Sadly, 4 years after he passed, but I'm really excited about that. With that, we ask everyone to stay safe, and we've got a lot more content from us at nothallofame.com. Bye, everybody.